In 2025, the Catholic Church finds itself at a historic conclave, where decisions shaping the future of faith and spirituality will be made. Between conservatives and progressives, the next pope could be the one to lead billions of believers through times of spiritual crisis and global change. What's truly at stake? Will the Church hold on to its tradition or embrace new ideas? Get ready to understand how this election could change the course of history. They say history doesn't repeat itself, but when it comes to the Vatican, it certainly rhymes. The death of the Pope in April 2025 didn't just shake the Catholic Church, it set in motion a meticulously planned spiritual protocol, the Conclave. While millions mourn behind the walls of the Apostolic Palace, another chapter quietly unfolds. Few know that the Camerlengo, a little-known but powerful figure, takes charge immediately. He verifies the Pope's death with a ritual tap of a silver hammer and begins securing the papal apartments. It's not just ceremony, it's legal, symbolic, and strategic. Now, here's the kicker. Within 10 to 15 days of the Pope's passing, the cardinals must gather in Rome. And not for a reunion over espresso, no. They're heading into one of the most secretive processes in modern religion. The Camerlengo prepares the Sistine Chapel, checking for hidden microphones and sealing windows. This isn't some Da Vinci Code fantasy. These are real measured actions steeped in tradition and law. The aim? Absolute secrecy and control. Not. Even the chirp of a phone is tolerated. It's total blackout. Ever wonder who decides when the conclave starts? That would be the Dean of the College of Cardinals. But don't be fooled. The Camerlengo still runs the show behind the scenes. Think of him as the interim CEO of Catholicism, with the weight of nearly 1.4 billion faithful souls hanging in the balance. While news anchors speculate endlessly on CNN and EWTN, inside the Vatican walls, everything follows a rhythm established centuries ago, each act tied to faith, power, and tradition. And speaking of faith, this 2025 Pope election is shaping up to be unlike any other in recent memory. There's global tension, internal division, and whispers of reform or resistance. The cardinals are already being scrutinized by media and believers alike. Names like Robert Sarah, Matteo Zuppi, and Peter Turkson swirl through headlines as if it were some ecclesiastical Oscars. But this is no popularity contest. It's about spiritual leadership at a crossroads of world influence. Behind every moment, there's a protocol, some visible, some hidden, under the heavy cloak of ecclesiastical politics. For example, most people don't know that the cardinals take an oath of secrecy before the first vote is even cast. That means no leaks, no anonymous interviews, no sources close to the decision. Just 120 men locked in deep prayer and deliberation, preparing to choose someone who might shape global morality for decades. But that's just the beginning. Because as soon as the rituals are done, the doors close and the votes begin, things take a turn that even insiders can't fully predict. So, how exactly does this symbolic dance unfold, and what ancient steps guide it? Before a single vote is cast, before white or black smoke rises, the conclave opens with a ritual so powerful, it feels like stepping back into the Middle Ages. Every gesture echoes a millennium of Catholic tradition, binding the present to the past. The most striking symbol, a silver hammer. Yes, it's real. The Camerlengo gently taps the Pope's forehead, calling his name 3 times. It's not about doubt, it's about ritual, authority, and recognition of death in the eyes of heaven and earth. That's just the tip of the incense burner. Once death is confirmed, the papal ring, the fisherman's ring, is broken with the same solemnity as a funeral mass. This isn't jewelry, it's a symbol of papal succession. Crushing it means no one else can impersonate the Pope's authority. It's both a security measure and a deeply spiritual act. Each cardinal knows that what's coming next is not politics, it's a sacred duty, cloaked in centuries of meaning. Then comes the oath of secrecy. Each cardinal, one by one, places his hand on the Bible and swears, under God no less, to never reveal what happens behind closed doors. It's not just for show. Breaking that oath carries automatic excommunication. Imagine that level of accountability. In other areas of life, politicians, CEOs, or even your family WhatsApp group, his words are binding. Secrecy, in this context, is spiritual armor. Even the process of entering the Sistine Chapel is infused with grandeur as the cardinals walk. In the chant, Veni Creator Spiritus rises, calling the Holy Spirit to descend upon them. You can feel the air thicken with reverence, and as soon as the last cardinal crosses the threshold, the cry rings out, Extra omnes, meaning everyone out. That includes assistants, technicians, even the sacristan. The doors close, sealing in the most secret vote in the world. These aren't random theatrics. They're designed to purge distraction and elevate intention. The idea is simple but powerful. When choosing the next pope, there should be no earthly interference. Every ritual is a spiritual firewall. And honestly, in a world overloaded with noise and notifications, there's something profoundly moving about a space carved out for silence and prayer. It's like the church is saying, now only God can speak. Yet despite all this solemnity, things are about to get a lot more intense. Because once those doors shut, the cardinals enter total isolation. A silence so deep it has shaped church history for centuries. Once the conclave begins, the cardinals aren't just spiritually locked in, they're literally cut off from the world. We're talking full-blown isolation. Phones gone, internet, forget it. Not even a whisper gets past the Vatican walls. They're lodged in the Domus Sanctae Marthae, under 24-hour watch, and every step they take to the Sistine Chapel is escorted. It's like the church's version of witness protection, only they're not hiding. They're preparing to choose the next spiritual leader of over 1 billion souls. And here's the kicker, they're not even allowed to speak to each other outside the voting sessions unless it's necessary. Imagine living in a house with 120 people where casual chit-chat is off limits. No, how's the pasta, or can you believe the weather? It's part of the sacred secrecy. The church doesn't want small talk shaping the future of Catholicism. The silence isn't just golden, it's doctrinal armor. Every morning they process from the residence to the Sistine Chapel in solemn formation, robes flowing, prayers whispered. It's not just a walk, it's a spiritual pilgrimage done daily. And once inside, they take the oath of secrecy again, just in case anyone's memory got fuzzy overnight. Think of it as the church's ultimate do not leak policy. If a single cardinal were to reveal what happens inside, he'd face instant excommunication. No debates, no delays. To ensure full seclusion, the Vatican uses jamming devices to block external signals. No sneaky AirPods or spy pens. It's not just tradition, it's ecclesiastical politics with bulletproof security. In 2005, someone even swept the Sistine Chapel for bugs, not insects, the espionage kind. That's how high the stakes are. This isn't reality TV, it's papal succession, and the world won't see a single frame until the moment of white smoke. The goal of this isolation is crystal clear. Eliminate manipulation. No lobbying, no journalists, no backdoor deals, just men in prayer, conscience, and conviction. It's like putting your soul in a pressure cooker, with the fate of the Catholic Church hanging in the balance. And while that may sound intense, it's all leading to the dramatic moment everyone watches for, the smoke signals. Inside the Sistine Chapel, the atmosphere is heavy, not with incense, but with responsibility. Every cardinal sits at an assigned place, pen in hand, gazing at a small slip of paper that holds the future of the Catholic Church. The rules, stricter than a courtroom oath. Each vote must be handwritten, folded, and dropped into a chalice-like urn, while saying, "I call as my witness Christ the Lord, who will be my judge." No pressure, right? The voting doesn't end after one round. Far. from it. Up to 4 scrutinies, votes, happen per day, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. It's a rhythm. Vote, burn, pray, repeat. And the cardinals aren't just casting ballots, they're weighing centuries of tradition, alliances, and the soul of the church itself. Every single name that rises has to secure a 2/3 majority. There's no simple majority shortcut in this ancient game. Now let's talk about the part the world sees, the smoke. When the votes are inconclusive, ballots are burned with a chemical mixture to produce black smoke. That's the church's way of saying, not yet, folks. But when consensus is finally reached, when the prayers and debates align, the ballots go up in white smoke, signaling a new pope election. It's the ultimate ancient notification system, no Wi-Fi required, and it's not just for show. That smoke carries weight. People crowd St. Peter's Square, glued to the chimney like it's the climax of a thriller. Some cry, some cheer, some kneel. It's a moment of pure religious symbolism, where a puff of smoke means the world has a new spiritual father. And until that white cloud rises, the world waits. Breath held, hearts tight. Because once it does, everything changes. There are no speeches, no campaign banners, no applause when a candidate wins. Just sacred silence followed by a question whispered in Latin. Do you accept your canonical election as Supreme Pontiff? If the answer is yes, the new Pope chooses his name and changes history in an instant. And believe me, that name, it's loaded with meaning, often pointing to past saints, past missions, or future reforms. It sets the tone. And yet, even as that smoke rises, the game behind the curtain isn't just about faith, it's about strategy, unspoken loyalties, and carefully crafted plans. Because while the world cheers, the next pope has already stepped into a whirlwind of power struggles, ancient expectations, and modern demands. That's where things get interesting. Don't let the red robes and solemn chants fool you. Inside the Vatican walls during a conclave, it's not all incense and prayer. Beneath the silence lies a chessboard of ancient alliances, whispered favors and power blocks known as camarillas. These aren't secret societies in the Hollywood sense, but tight-knit groups of cardinals who've spent years building influence. Think of them as spiritual lobbyists, only with eternal consequences. Even in total isolation, the cardinals aren't starting from scratch. The groundwork was laid at dinners, synods, and quiet conversations in corridors long before April 2025. These ecclesiastical politics shape the conclave's core dynamics. Some camarillas lean heavily into conservatism, championing figures like Robert Serra. Others push a more progressive tone, rallying behind names like Matteo Zuppi or Peter Turkson. It's a sacred tug-of-war with global stakes. Strategic voting becomes inevitable. In early rounds, factions might test the waters, floating names to measure support. Deals aren't made in writing, God forbid, but they're felt. We'll back yours if you back ours on round 3. It's not corruption. It's survival in a system where every vote ripples across the church's future. History shows that some popes were never the top pick until someone behind the curtain pulled the right string. And don't underestimate the non-European bloc. With Catholicism booming in Africa, Latin America, and Asia, the conclave of 2025 may see emerging powers shift influence away from the traditional Roman stronghold. That's not just symbolic. It's a potential reshaping of the Church's priorities. Suddenly, topics like climate justice, migration, and social inequality enter the room, whether certain factions like it or not. The Camerlengo's role during this political ballet isn't just logistical. He becomes a spiritual anchor and sometimes a subtle referee. While cardinals maneuver, he ensures the line between divine guidance and human ambition doesn't blur too much. Easier said than done, of course. After all, no amount of ritual can fully tame human nature, not even in the Sistine Chapel. Still, these alliances, rival or loyal, don't exist in a vacuum. They feed the papabili list, those considered popable. It's here, in this mix of old friendships, quiet promises, and mutual interests that the true drama brews. But how does that play out when ideology enters the ring? When people picture the Vatican, they often imagine marble halls frozen in time. But inside the Sistine Chapel during the 2025 conclave, two powerful visions of the future are clashing in silence. On one side, you've got cardinals pushing for continuity, hierarchy, and doctrinal purity, the conservatives. On the other, voices seeking adaptation, inclusion, and modernization, the progressives, and right there in the middle, a global church searching for balance. Take Robert Serra, for example, a staunch traditionalist, deeply revered for his commitment to prayer, liturgy, and moral clarity. His supporters view him as a guardian of orthodoxy, someone who won't bend to societal winds. For those clinging to certainty in a shifting world, he represents stability. He's not here to win a popularity contest. He's here to preserve what they call the soul of Catholicism. Then there's Matteo Zuppi, who many see as the embodiment of compassionate reform. Known for his work with the poor and marginalized, Zuppi believes the church shouldn't merely observe culture, it should engage it. His style resonates with younger Catholics and those disillusioned by rigidity. While his critics whisper about blurred lines and excessive openness, his allies champion him as a bridge between dogma and reality. And let's not forget Peter Turkson, whose candidacy straddles both camps. He's seen as a moral heavyweight. From Ghana with global appeal, a figure who might reconcile tradition with change. Turkson talks about spiritual leadership in the context of climate action, economic justice, and the African Church's growing influence. For many, his potential election would signal that Catholicism is finally embracing its true worldwide dimension. This ideological standoff isn't just theological, it's emotional. Behind every vote is a fear. Will reform fracture unity? Will tradition alienate the next generation? These aren't questions with clean answers, and that's exactly what makes the 2025 conclave so explosive. It's more than succession. It's about survival, relevance, and the Church's global impact in a time of moral crisis. So, with alliances drawn and worldviews colliding behind ancient walls, one thing's certain: whoever emerges as Pope won't just wear white robes. He'll carry the weight of 1.3 billion expectations. But how does this influence stretch beyond the Church and into the entire planet? Let's be honest, the Pope isn't just the leader of the Catholic Church, he's a global moral authority. When he speaks, presidents listen, markets shift, and entire movements pause to reflect. That's why the 2025 Pope election isn't a small church affair tucked inside the Vatican. It's a headline with ripple effects across every continent. The next Pope could reshape world conversations around migration, climate change, war, and human dignity. Take Pope Francis, for example. When he released Laudato Si', it wasn't just about trees. It became a rallying cry for ecological responsibility, quoted by scientists, educators, and even secular activists. Now imagine someone like Peter Turkson, with roots in Africa, and a fierce passion for justice, stepping into that role. His papacy could ignite action in places long ignored, bringing visibility, funding, and dignity to millions. And it's not just about causes, it's about diplomacy. The Pope often serves as a bridge where politics fail. He meets with dictators and dissidents, Jews and Muslims, presidents and prisoners. During the Cold War, John Paul II was instrumental in cracking the Iron Curtain. In 2025, with rising nationalism and ideological fractures worldwide, the next Pope's voice could serve as the last credible call for unity. Then there's the question of influence within communities. A shift in papal tone could embolden reformers in Latin America or reinvigorate embattled churches in Europe. Even inside predominantly non-Christian countries, A progressive or conservative papal influence can affect policies on religious freedom, education, or even gender norms. One man in white can move billions without ever signing a law. So, as the cardinals cast their ballots under Michelangelo's gaze, they're not just choosing a priest, they're electing a global figurehead. The spiritual crossroads they stand on is also a geopolitical one. And if you think that's heavy, wait until we bring in ancient prophecy and whispers of apocalypse into the mix. Now, here's where things get really goosebump-worthy. Some folks aren't just watching the 2025 conclave with interest. They're watching it with bated breath and a Bible in one hand, St. Malachi's prophecy in the other. This 12th century Irish archbishop allegedly foresaw every pope until the end of time. And guess what? According to his list, the next one might be the last. Gulp. This has sparked a wave of curiosity and doomsday speculation, even among skeptics. Why? Because the accuracy of previous entries is eerie. Each papal succession is matched with a mysterious motto. John Paul II was "From the labor of the sun." Benedict XVI was "Glory of the olive." And now the final name looms, Peter the Roman. And wouldn't you know it, Peter Turkson is one of the Papabili. Coincidence or divine script, whether taken literally or symbolically, this prophecy adds a thick layer of tension to the already weighty ritual. Some see it as superstition, others as divine foresight, but almost everyone agrees. Something feels different this time. There's a chill in the air. The Vatican's silence on the matter doesn't help either. It's the kind of mystery that fuels late-night YouTube rabbit holes and dinner table debates. From a psychological standpoint, this also influences how the faithful view leadership. If people believe this is the final pope, their expectations become massive, borderline messianic. Imagine being chosen under that kind of pressure. Reform? That's just the beginning. You're expected to navigate faith, politics, and now eschatology. The man elected may feel like he's sitting on St. Peter's throne with one eye on Revelation, and this looming aura of finality plays right into current global unrest. Wars, pandemics, climate fear. Many are looking to the Catholic Church not just for answers, but for signs. What if this is more than history repeating? What if it's history climaxing? That's why, before you dismiss this as old folklore, take a look back at some jaw-dropping church history that might give this prophecy a surprising context. It's easy to think that today's papal election process is airtight and flawless, but it wasn't always this way. Far from it. Throughout church history, conclaves have been marked by scandal, starvation, and even armed threats. Imagine a Camerlengo having to dodge political blackmail, or cardinals being locked in a palace for months without food until they chose a new pope. Yes, that actually happened in Viterbo in the 13th century. The Vatican's ironclad secrecy. Rules didn't just appear out of nowhere, they were born out of pure necessity. Back then, it wasn't just about spiritual guidance, it was about who controlled Europe. Families like the Medicis and Borgia didn't just support candidates, they schemed, bribed, and even killed to sway the voting process. That's why understanding the past isn't just interesting, it's crucial. The strict rituals, the lock-ins, the two-thirds majority, these weren't spiritual flourishes, they were reforms forged in the fire of chaos and corruption. And while it's tempting to romanticize the tradition, many forget how bloody and bitter these battles were. At one point, France and Italy backed competing popes simultaneously. Yes, two at once. That schism nearly tore Catholicism in two. When people ask why cardinals today vote in total isolation, escorted to the Sistine Chapel under tight supervision, it's because the Church has lived through the consequences of manipulation. Every smoky ritual today is a result of hard-earned wisdom. Let's not kid ourselves, ecclesiastical politics never really left the room, it just got smarter. The Camarillas of the 1500s wore rings and robes. Today, they operate with coded language and strategic media leaks. But the intention remains to bend the choice in favor of their vision for spiritual leadership. Understanding that helps us read between the lines when certain cardinals rise quickly to the top of the Papal list. And if you look at the 2025 conclave through this lens, patterns begin to emerge. That tension between conservatism and progressivism, it's not new, it's just dressed in modern clothes. The whisper campaigns, the symbolic gestures, the sudden surges in support. History repeats, my friend, just with better lighting and live-streamed speculation. And yet, all this past leads us to one undeniable truth. We're standing at a spiritual crossroads unlike any before. As we approach the 2025 papal election, one thing is crystal clear. The Catholic Church is facing a spiritual crossroads. On one hand, there's a centuries-old tradition, deeply rooted in the Vatican's teachings, rituals, and doctrines. On the other, there's a world that's increasingly shifting away from religious institutions in favor of secularism, progressivism, and even technology. This dichotomy leaves the Church at a critical juncture. Should it cling to its deeply held beliefs and resist change, or open its doors to modern interpretations of faith? Take a moment to reflect. The Pope isn't just a spiritual leader. He's the figurehead of an institution that spans continents, has billions of followers, and affects political and social landscapes around the world. The decisions made during this election will have repercussions not just in the halls of the Vatican, but in the very fabric of global Catholicism. With the rise of papabili like Matteo Zuppi, a progressive figure alongside conservative heavyweights like Robert Serra, the stakes couldn't be higher. The Church's future hinges on what path it chooses to follow. Now think about the candidates. Will they embrace reform, or will they reinforce the Catholic Church's long-held teachings on issues like marriage, the role of women, or sexuality? The world is watching, and in many ways, the Church's choices in this conclave will signal whether it's ready to evolve, or whether it's content to remain a fortress of tradition. Papal influence has always been about more than just doctrine. It's about shaping the future of a rapidly changing world, but let's not sugarcoat it. The Vatican is often seen as an institution out of step with today's world. With scandals, abuses of power, and declining numbers, the Church finds itself grappling with questions of relevance. Can it reinvent itself without compromising its core beliefs? The upcoming Pope election isn't just about choosing a spiritual leader, it's about deciding what role Catholicism will play in the 21st century. Will it embrace the future or retreat further into isolation? The stakes, both spiritually and politically, couldn't be higher. As the cardinals enter the Sistine Chapel under the veil of secrecy, the world watches with anticipation. Will this conclave mark a turning point, or will it simply be another page in a long history of tradition, forever caught between the past and the future? The choice that is made will echo far beyond the Vatican walls. It will shape the future of global morality and set the tone for how faith will be practiced in the decades to come. As we stand on the brink of a pivotal moment for the Catholic Church, the 2025 papal election offers more than just a change in leadership. It's a profound crossroads where tradition meets transformation. The decisions made in the Vatican will not only impact millions of faithful, but will also reverberate across global politics, culture, and morality. The next pope will be faced with a world that is vastly different from the one of his predecessors, where challenges like secularism, progressivism, and religious relevance are at the forefront. But it's not just about who wins the papal election, it's about what the Church chooses to become. Will it continue to protect its age-old teachings, preserving the spiritual and doctrinal integrity that has been its foundation for centuries? Or will it evolve, opening itself to new perspectives and engaging with the modern world in ways that could redefine its very mission? The tension between conservatism and progressivism is at the heart of this debate, and the world is watching closely. One thing is clear: the papal influence extends far beyond the Vatican walls. The next pope won't just be a leader within the church, he will wield influence that touches every corner of the globe. Whether addressing global conflicts, social justice issues, or the role of the church in the digital age, his decisions will shape the moral and ethical compass for generations to come. The stakes could not be higher as we face a world in desperate need of spiritual leadership. As the cardinals prepare to enter the Sistine Chapel under the veil of secrecy, we are reminded that church history is a mix of spiritual guidance and earthly power. In many ways, this is about more than just choosing a new leader. It's about deciding what kind of church will emerge from the trials of the modern world. Will it be a beacon of hope and guidance, or a relic of the past, struggling to adapt to an ever-changing world? The next few years will be crucial. To stay informed on the developments surrounding the 2025 papal election and the broader impact on global faith and morality, make sure to subscribe to Light of Grace. Join us as we dive deep into these important questions, offering insightful commentary, spiritual guidance, and expert analysis. Don't miss out. Click that subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay connected with the journey ahead.